On this edition of Fulton at Work, after passing the T-Splosh referendum in 2016, improvements to roads, bridges, sidewalks, bicycle paths, and other transportation-related projects are now underway. We'll take a look at the impact these projects will have on Fulton County and its residents. I'm Daryl Carver. All that and more starts right now on Fulton at Work. From North Fulton to South Fulton, 2017 saw the beginning of T-Splosh funded projects. In August, Fulton County Commissioners joined the North Fulton leaders for the successful kickoff of the first T-Splosh funded project, an intersection improvement at the corners of Mount Vernon Highway and Long Island Drive. The monumental occasion was marked with the unveiling of a T-Splosh construction sign.
We're kind of ground zero for a lot of things because we are a huge job center. You can see we're surrounded by residential areas, so there's a clash sometimes between our job centers like the hospital and the perimeter market and our residences. And the more we can do to help alleviate congestion and improve mobility, I think the happier everybody will be. And so we're really excited that this is going to be the very first project.
This is what real civic engagement is all about.
And just a few months later, the first T-Splosh resurfacing project in South Fulton began. District 6 Commissioner Emma Darnell, along with officials from the City of South Fulton, joined county staff and community members for the symbolic start of this massive project. The group gathered on New Hope Road, which is one of 3 heavily traveled roads that will be resurfaced.
In 2017, we have about $4 million worth of resurfacing work we're going to be doing throughout all of South Fulton along 3 major corridors, New Hope being the first one, Old Fairburn Road, and Cedar Grove, the other 2 roads we're going to be doing.
The people of this district are responsible for this project kicking off. We'd like to feel that the government responds to citizens, but the fact of the matter is that citizens and their demands and their reasonable demands are the basis for all that we do. So we are very, very pleased this morning that once again citizens have stepped forth, not only with talking the talk, but walking the walk, because without their vote, we wouldn't have had T-Splosh, and without their constant reminder of our responsibilities, we would not be able to do this project. So this is a great day for this community.
In addition, over a dozen South Fulton subdivisions are also part of this T-Splosh project. Now, when we come back, we're going to find out how these and future projects will benefit Fulton County and its residents, as well as messages that officials have while the construction is actually taking place. So please, stay with us. Welcome back to Fulton at Work. I'm Daryl Carver. T-Splosh funded projects are underway in both North and South Fulton County. Joining us now to talk about those projects and more is Public Works Director David Clark. First of all, Mr. Clark, thank you for joining us here on Fulton at Work.
Pleasure to be here.
Now, please remind our viewers what T-Splosh is and how it benefits Fulton County residents.
T-Splosh is a relatively new tax for Fulton County in that 0.75% is going towards transportation projects throughout both North and South Fulton County, with the exception of the City of Atlanta. The City of Atlanta has its own transportation tax, but our tax is 0.75% that's added on top of the sales tax that Fulton County already collects. And what's unique about this is it is designated to specific projects the voters voted on last November.
And for how long is the sales tax actually in place?
Altogether, the T-Splosh tax is lasting 5 years. It started on April 1st, 2017, and it's going to go through March 31st, 2022.
Now, it was revealed at the June BOC recess meeting that only 77% of the projected T-Splosh funds were collected during the month of April. Why was that the case, and have those funds been collected?
Whenever a new sales tax starts up, it always takes a couple of months for all the retailers to get on board and charge that extra tax to the consumer. And so if you look at the history of most sales tax programs, those first couple of months are always lower than what the projections were indicating we thought we were going to be collecting. But what is nice about it is the retailer is still responsible for paying the state that tax even if they didn't tax the citizens or the consumer when they were buying their product. So it does catch up, and actually the last couple of months we've been close to 95% of what our projections are. So we're catching up, and the projections are matching the revenues collected really closely, and we think we're going to have a successful program.
Now, the very first T-Splosh project started in Sandy Springs during the summer of 2017. Please tell us about that project and how it was chosen to be the very first project.
Sandy Springs was lucky in the sense that they already had a project that was fully designed and ready for construction, so once they got their first check, they were able to move that to construction very early in June and July of this year. It was a small intersection project at the intersection of Long Island and Mount Vernon Way. It made some turn lanes, so you had a dedicated left and a dedicated right turn lane, whereas before the project it was all in a single lane and created quite a bit of backups whenever someone wanted to turn left and everybody else wanted to turn right, for instance. So they were lucky, they had everything ready to go. It was a successful project. It recently got completed, and it actually looks very, very good.
And how does this project help improve traffic in that area?
As I was saying, before the project happened, there was a single lane where everybody who wanted to turn left or turn right turned from the same lane. After the project's been completed, they actually separated those into two separate lanes, so now there's a dedicated left turn lane and a dedicated right turn lane, and so therefore the intersection is actually operating at a higher capacity, with most vehicles waiting less time than they did before the project.
If you could, tell us about some of the other T-Splosh funded projects in North Fulton that residents there will benefit from.
Most of the projects in North Fulton are capacity-driven types of projects. They're projects to include more turn lanes, for instance, like Sandy Springs did with their project. They're also roadway widening projects, adding a whole nother lane down a corridor, as well as many traffic signal improvements throughout. And so what you're going to be seeing in North Fulton over the next 5 years is increased capacity at a lot of congested areas throughout the entire area.
It's certainly great information for our viewers. David Clark, please stay with us, because when we come back, we're going to head down to South Fulton and talk about the T-Splosh projects that are taking place there. And Fulton at Work will return after this short break. Welcome back to Fulton at Work. I'm Darrell Carver. South Fulton has also seen T-Splosh funded projects get underway, and we welcome back Public Works Director David Clark to tell us a little bit more about that. Mr. Clark, if you could, tell us about the first T-Splosh project in South Fulton and why it was the initial one chosen.
We just started our first project in South Fulton during the first week of October, doing resurfacing road work on New Hope Road between Boat Rock Road and Cascade Road. What we have done in South Fulton is focused most of the first couple of years of projects on resurfacing activities. Most of the roads in South Fulton have been neglected over the years and not had the resurfacing work that they really needed to. And so we've put together over $20 million worth of projects for the first 3 years to do resurfacing. And New Hope Road is our first road that we were able to start that project with.
And how does this project help improve traffic in that area?
For most people who have driven down New Hope Road over the years, there's a lot of potholes, there are a lot of utility cuts, a lot of uneven surface, so it was a very bumpy, and all those cuts started allowing water to actually infiltrate the roadway and actually started breaking up even further. So what we're doing with this project is we're sealing all that, we're replacing all those potholes, and then putting a fresh layer of asphalt over the entire roadway to seal it and provide a much more smoother ride for everybody who uses the roadway.
Now, you were one of those in attendance for the symbolic start of this huge project. What kind of feedback were you getting from the community about this?
The community really loves the fact that all these roads are going to get resurfaced. Like I said, we have about $20 million worth of projects altogether. We've shared that list with the city of South Fulton and all the residents, and everybody's very excited about finally getting some attention to the roadways. Of course, there are some who are a little inconvenienced by some of the construction activities that happens, but most of them understand that they have to have a little bit of inconvenience now to have the roadway in the condition that they want long term. So they're excited about the project overall.
If you could, tell us a little bit more about some of the other T-SPLOST funded projects that South Fulton residents will benefit from.
Some of the other roadways that we're going to be resurfacing over the next 2 years include Old Fairburn Road and Cedar Grove Road in South Fulton. Plus, we have about 19 subdivisions that are going to get their final layer of asphalt that they didn't get when they were first built in the late 2000s because of the recession that happened. Plus, we have 30 existing subdivisions that are getting brand new pavements as well as part of the resurfacing program. Once we finish up with the resurfacing work, we're going to start doing some intersection work. One of the first projects you'll see early next spring is a new traffic signal at Cascade Palmetto Highway at West Stubbs Road. And then we have a number of intersection projects that will probably be designed during this fall and spring and constructed about a year from now. And that includes work at Butner Road and Camp Creek Parkway, as well as Butner Road and Union Road.
And I understand that there's a Citizens Oversight Council that's in place to oversee all the T-SPLOST projects.
As part of the state requirements for the T-SPLOST program, a oversight council had to be set up with one resident representing each of the 14 communities that are receiving these T-SPLOST funds as part of the Fulton County's program. So we have 14 residents, one from each city. So we have one from Milton, we have one from Hapeville, we have one from East Point, one from South Fulton, for example. They all meet about on a quarterly basis to review the revenues that are coming in and making sure that the projects that are being done are consistent with what the T-SPLOST referendum required them to build. For instance, making sure that they're still being used for resurfacing activities that we promised we were going to do in the South Fulton area.
Now, once the projects are complete, who's in charge of their maintenance?
All these projects will be turned over to the cities themselves for their maintenance. So in the South Fulton case, they'll be turned over to the new city of South Fulton. Right now, Fulton County has an agreement with South Fulton that Fulton County staff are still maintaining these projects for them, but sooner or later, when the city of South Fulton takes over that responsibility of all transportation maintenance, they will also be responsible for these projects that we are building as part of the T-SPLOST program.
And as folks drive by these, what's your message to residents while this construction is actually taking place?
Like I said, nobody really likes the inconvenience that construction brings about, but I think most people recognize the need for the project and the long-term benefits once the projects are completed. So what we ask people is just be careful, be patient, and be observant of where the workers are working when they drive through a work zone or they see construction on the side of the road. A little bit of delay right now certainly is going to pay for itself through the improvements that we're going to be seeing in the community over the next 5 years.
And please share with us, if you could, your final thoughts on now that these T-SPLOST projects are actually underway.
Really, this is an exciting time to be in Fulton County, and transportation needs are finally being met. Having a dedicated source of fundings for the next 5 years is giving everybody from Milton all the way down to Chattahoochee Hills a dedicated funding source to really do a lot of good transportation projects that we've been talking about for 5, 10, 15 years, and finally have a source of funding to actually see those projects come to fruition. So we're very excited about how transportation is going to change over the next 5 years, and we're expecting things are going to be even better 5 years from now, and possibly a next T-SPLOST if these projects are successful.
Public Works Director David Clark, thanks again for joining us here on Fulton at Work.
Appreciate the time today. Anytime.
And we'll be back to wrap up the show after this short break. That's all of our time. Thanks for joining us here on Fulton at Work, and a very special thanks to our guest today. Now, we want to connect with you online, so please check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can also watch this show and any other FGTV program at any time on the FGTV YouTube page. I'm Daryl Carver, and we'll see you next time.